What is up, party people? Welcome to the Beer Guys Radio Show. Thanks for coming over here and hanging out with us. We appreciate it very much. We're gonna have some beers. We're gonna have some conversation and just see how things unfold on this Wednesday, this hump day as it was. So, with that said, I'm gonna get my ducks in a row here. We'll get the show going. Starting a little late, but we've got it together mostly now. So
Yeah.
yeah. So, all right, guys, here we go. Oh, I forgot to say, if you got a comment, you got a question, let us know what you're drinking. Put it in the comments. We would love to hear from you. So thanks. And now, here we go. Welcome, everybody. This is the Beer Guys Radio Show. Thank you so much for coming here and hanging out with us this week. We always appreciate that. We're going to have a good time. I am Tim Dennis. Brian Hewitt, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I am also Brian Hewitt, so everything's right.
You are.
With
Yes,
the world.
I got that right. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not the wrong person, so that's a good thing. How's it going, Tim?
I'm fine, man. I'm fine. It's I took a couple days off last week, took a little breather and did some retail therapy, as they call it. When I checked out a new Persian restaurant, Brian.
Oh,
that was really good. And as I discussed on the show last week, alcohol has not been agreeing with me. So this restaurant had some NA wines and mocktails. So I tried a non-alcoholic Riesling and I tried a non-alcoholic red blend. I think it was Cabernet and something else. The Riesling was pretty tasty. It had a little bit of what I would call like a grape juicy kind of taste to it, but it was nice. The red was off. It just wasn't. It was thin, watery, just didn't have the body or the flavor that it needed there. And then I had a mock mojito. So I did the best I could do with the cards I am currently being dealt.
All right, it's not bad. Until you said that you liked a non-alcoholic wine, I've never heard anybody say anything about non-alcoholic wine that was complimentary. I've always heard it's like it really, really needs some work. But
yeah.
I'm interested in that. The white wine, the Riesling, was the better of the two, where I would think that like the red, which might have more body, like with stouts, non-alcoholic stouts, a lot of times they're better than the really, really light beers because you can add things to the body. I'm wondering if there's just nothing you can add to the reds to get them to where they need to be.
That's what
weird.
I'm wondering.
It's like the opposite.
And so Riesling's got a little sweetness and stuff to it. So I could see where they could kind of bump up that part of the flavor there, the little tart, little sweet, and still keep it in the right ballpark. But whatever they did with the red, it's not ready for prime time right now. That's in my opinion. Now, I have limited wine experience to make comparisons to, and my sample pool of non-alcoholic wines so far is 2 of them. So we're one of 2, 50-50 right now.
They should try fermenting it and see how that goes.
Put some alcohol in there. It'll taste better.
See what happens when you do that.
This is an alcoholic, non-alcoholic wine. Wait, what?
So, yeah, it's like the non-alcoholic seltzers.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Madness. Nate, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. I am getting into a new hobby nowadays. I am making some really fancy homemade ice cream.
Ice creams, huh? What's been your fanciest? Like, how fancy are you getting there?
My most recent one, so I guess my most fancy is a cobbler series. So I did a blueberry cobbler ice cream initially, and then I just last night made a key lime pie ice cream.
Okay, that sounds good. The Persian joint that I just mentioned going to, they had a saffron and pistachio ice cream. And the way they served is they put it between, they were kind of like cookies, kind of like waffles, sort of, not really. But anyhow, they made little ice cream sandwiches and they had crushed pistachios all around the plate. So I've had some fancy ice cream lately, Nate. Yeah, it's a good time, man.
I had whatever it was that what was that? The custard thing. It was kind of like a blizzard recently. Was it?
Yeah, the frozen custard
from who does that?
Culver's.
It was like Culver's.
Yeah,
that was great, and I didn't die despite the fact that was probably the most lactose I've had in one setting in a long time. I think.
Yeah.
Heck, I think I had a cheese plate that night too, so maybe I'm getting over it.
Wow,
maybe I'm immortal or something like that. I don't know.
Well, Brian, if you want to tempt fate, I have 3 different ice creams on hand right now, so we can get you an ice cream flight.
Trial by fire.
Was this inspired by you accidentally dumping your cocktail into a bowl of ice cream? Is that really what we're talking about here? Like you just
no, not at all.
Oh, hey, I should try this.
Nope.
Are you crossing the streams, Nate? Are you going to do any cocktail inspired ice creams?
I potentially could.
Okay.
I don't have any. The next thing I have on deck is going to be a bourbon butterscotch praline ice cream, and I'll actually add bourbon to that one. So
Okay.
Make a
All right, man.
Boulevardier or whatever that's called. The
yeah,
riff off the whatchamacallit.
That sounds
The,
fancy.
the Negroni. Yeah, Negroni ice cream. I would eat that too.
Yeah. Good stuff, guys. Good stuff. So our buddy Coach recently went down to I think it's in Africa. Is it he went on a mission trip down there, but
Yeah.
he on the trip there we're sharing he had some really interesting beers. Westvleteren or Westvleteren 12 Westie 12 he
Yeah.
found. So how odd that down in Africa you find Westie 12 beer, but it was kind of cool seeing the stuff he got into on his trip there. And Brian, this made you think we'd chat about it here, but you were curious if you could go anywhere, any country in the world and have a beer, where would you go? So Brian, how about you? Where would you go?
I would definitely go back to Belgium and spend more time just hitting on it's like the all the Trappist monasteries. I would I'd go hit the gooseries, the blenderies and all that that are making all the great spontaneous stuff, but I would really love to spend some more time drinking some Belgian styles over there. That's my number one. But if I weren't leaving the country, I think I'd go to New England somewhere. And I'm not 100% sure exactly where I'd land, but I
Just do
think
the
Belgium
tour,
is still
man.
my top. Yeah, I think if I'm there, I'm probably gonna have a car and I'll just drive around and hit everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where I'd go. How about
So
you,
let's
Tim?
well, hold on. I'm still gonna interrogate you a little bit more here.
Interrogate me. All right.
So if we take the low-hanging fruit off the table, Germany, England, Belgium, we take those away. Any other country? Is there any other country you think would be a fun one to do some beer tours?
I would consider. So we have a story about South Africa later on. I would consider South Africa, but I also would
Okay.
consider Italy because the Italian Pilsner became a thing as a result of Italy. So I'd like to see what on earth the beer scene is like in Italy right now.
Okay. That's fair.
It would be
That'd
interesting.
be fun to check
Yeah,
out.
it would be cool, right? So
It would. Absolutely. But to the question for me, low hanging fruit out of the way, I think I'm going to take the next piece of low hanging fruit, Czech Republic.
Oh,
I'd
yeah,
have
that's a
to go
good
to the
one.
Czech Republic and see what's going there. That sounds like it's a good place I've heard affordable too, to drink
Yes.
beer.
Yes.
And the only country other than the US I've had a beer in was Mexico. And I believe it was actually like a Pacifico or Tecate or something. It was I did a San Diego trip and then did a day trip down to Tijuana. So I think I went to Mexico and had the beers that we had here, of course. Yeah. I didn't know nothing back then. So Nate, how about you, man? Where are you going?
all right. Low hanging fruit aside, I'm going to New Zealand. There's so many
New Zealand.
popular hops
Okay.
that come out of New Zealand. And
Oh.
I've got a couple of buddies that live in Australia, and they talk all the time about some New Zealand breweries. I don't remember which ones off the top of my head, and they just seem like they have a lot of cool stuff going on. Plus, I just want to go to New Zealand. I mean, the hiking, the mountains.
Yeah.
It just looks like it's going to be a good time.
I just thought of something from the last time I was in Southeast Asia. I went to a beer festival there. It just happened to be on at the same time. I got tickets to it. Apparently, Vietnam had a surprising beer scene. I'm like, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I might have to put Vietnam on my list of like they were doing a lot of saisons, like a lot of French influence. And apparently there was an area, and I don't know how it is now. This has been years now, but they had quite a craft beer thing going on there. I'm like, that would be really interesting to check out. So you mentioned that, and for some reason I was thinking of Vietnam. So anyway,
Cool. I've heard that India has a growing craft beer scene as well. I don't remember how I stumbled in it, but I got into a Facebook group talking about craft beer in India, and they're always posting up their beers around there. And it would be interesting. I'd love to go to a country that did its own take. And I forget what country is in, Brian, but we talked to a brewery that did, like they mentioned, the brewery that mentioned that they did like a Cascadian dark ale, and everybody thought it was cool because it was foreign. It was Cascadian. Was it Guatemala or I forget.
Colombia maybe or something like that?
I don't know. That was a long time ago. But he mentioned that a lot of the flavors they use there are local fruits that we don't even have here in the States. So they play into the local flavors, and that would be a lot of fun to go try things that I just can't get here because there are things that we don't get here, don't have here. So that'll be a lot of fun.
I agree. That'd be cool.
Yes, that's good. That's good. Brian, one of our favorite topics besides tariffs, because we obviously enjoy those, is the things that Gen Z is ruining. And we've decided Gen Z, we're going to jump on the bandwagon, and whether or not we know it to be true or even have opinions on the matter, we're just going to blame things on you.
Oh yeah.
So, but there's constantly information coming out how they're, against drinking. They don't like this and that. But the latest one, Brian, is Gen Z versus the bar tab.
The way you set this up reminded me of the time that millennials were accused of ruining or destroying napkins. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't remember that. No,
because they used paper towels instead of proper napkins. So napkins were going the way of the dodo, and I was being blamed the millennials. And that was going out. And I just kind of did that cue the meme where the guy looks to the left, looks to the right type of thing. Because I've been using paper towels as napkins for a long
it's
time.
Napkins on a roll, man. It's convenient.
Exactly. But the latest thing going around, and I think this has got viral-ish. I mean, it's from the New York Times. I haven't been able to read the entire article because I don't have a subscription to the New York Times, but I've been able to gather a lot of context from people who have read it. And basically, they're saying that Gen Z avoids opening a bar tab when they go out to drink because bar tabs give them anxiety, apparently. So they close out their tab every time they get a drink, even if they know they're going to get more. They're going to get several more, in fact. They don't do cash, so that means they're running a card for every drink, which sounds annoying, but it's not. Okay, what's the big deal? I think the problem is for the venues, they get swipe fees for every time you run a card. There is a fee for just swiping the card, so they're paying it for every single drink instead of the entire tab. So that is raising the price of drinks, like their cost. So they're going to raise the price of drinks. So, Gen Z is killing the bar tab and also making drinks more expensive for the rest of us. So I love because this is like, I could tell there are people out there, that Gen Z people that are responding to this are like, no, we're not, and all this, but it's touching a nerve. It's making the rounds. So for one thing I agree with them on, one reason they're right is having to wait in line, in my opinion, to close a tab is awful. If you got to wait in the same line that you would have had to wait to order a drink just to close out your tab, I hate that. So part of me is like, totally get it. Like,
so if you decide you're done drinking after that drink, you don't have to roam back up. You're done. You leave.
You just leave. Okay. And I have done that before. There are places, if your line is long and I have to go up to that same register to close out, you know what? You've cost yourself a sale, because I'm not gonna deal with it. I'm like, that was too long. I'm just gonna get it and leave. But at the same time, the reason why Gen Z is incredibly dumb is cash exists. You could do this with cash. Like, and you don't have to do this. I'm like, why are you swiping a card all the time? You're doing all this. I'm like, this is a thing. And I know Gen Z, to use something, they have to invent it first. So I'm sitting here waiting for Gen Z to invent cash so we can go back to using cash, because I've been doing that for a lot of years.
So here's the thing, Brian, is I think it's very interesting that you're complaining about things that Gen Z is doing while taking a boomer mentality here with your cash. No one wants to muck with cash anymore. Cash is
just so easy.
I can tap my wrist against things and pay, and that's just super convenient. I have, Brian, we did if you've been listening to the show for a while, many months ago, we did a pinball tournament for a fundraiser. I think it was last year, like towards the end of last year.
Yeah.
But people paid to buy raffle tickets from us, and they paid with dollars, like single paper dollars. You guys have heard of them. Brian, you're familiar with them.
Oh, I love them. They're great.
And I ended up with a stack of like 80 $80 bills. In my man bag, I have a binder clip of singles in my man purse, because I have still not used that cash in a year. Because
that's from stripping. In your man bag, you've got singles.
What I do outside of this show is none of your business at all. How I choose to make my fun money is none of your business.
You're walking around money. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Hey, you walked around for that money.
That's
it spins
right.
pretty
That's
good,
right.
don't it?
Gen Z coming up, tapping me $1 at a time, Brian. So
All those swipe
I got
fees. I'm
one.
like, I get 30 cents off of every dollar they give me.
It's
Thanks to the swipe
terrible.
fees.
They're
Yeah.
killing the stripper lifestyle for
That's
me,
right.
Brian.
You know what? I've not been into that kind of venue in a long time.
Adult Entertainment Emporium.
If people are adverse to currency like that, how the heck are they? How are they doing that? Are they doing that? I don't even know if they're still doing it. I have no idea. I really don't know if that's even a thing anymore.
Yeah, it's been a long, long time since I've been in one as well. But I do remember some of them were going to like you have to buy house bucks. Like you go
house bucks.
Yeah, like you go, let me get 50 or whatever and get that. And again, I don't know. I imagine even people who may not like to use cash a lot of places, they probably still like to make it rain in the club.
Oh, maybe it's like Kolsch service, and you just put a mark on your like coaster for every time
Maybe
you
so.
Tip or something like that. Okay,
The dancer's got a little tab card on her garter belt. Everybody's got a pin.
Yeah, you got to turn the card over anyway. Yeah.
Stamps with your initials on it, so they know who to charge or whatever. So, man, strip clubs have gotten confusing. This is Gen Z's fault.
Very complicated, yes, and this is definitely a Gen Z's laying
Gen
it
Z
at their feet.
Killed the strip club,
and I very much enjoy like blaming everything on them. Like whether or not it's true or not, that doesn't matter. The entertainment factor is high.
It doesn't. Yeah. It's their fault. It's their fault. So, thanks for nothing, Gen Z. Yeah.
What have you done to us already?
Well, Brian, we do still drink beer, or at least beer adjacent beverages. So let's talk about our beers of the week. Brian, what are you drinking this week?
I pre-gamed with a Halfway Crooks Ada, which is just a delightful German Pilsner. I've done that. I've had that on the show a lot of times, and I'm going to continue to, as long as I have them around. That was my last one, I believe. So I need to go out and get some more. And right now I'm getting into an Omegang's oak-aged watermelon Kolsch, which is a really intriguing style. I saw this on the shelf and I'm like, well, I have to get this because it's so out there. And so it's a Kolsch aged on golden agave barrel chips with watermelon and lime. And I got to tell you, this really works. And it's unexpected.
It sounds like one that could work. Sure. Sounds refreshing.
I didn't know. I got the 4-pack because I'm like, well, it wasn't broken up, and I'm like, I have to. I just have to. And
yeah,
Omegang has had some real hits recently. I know that there was at least one year where they had the most winning Christmas beer that we had. Like it was our top tier pick. This was extremely well made. Is extremely well made, and I'm enjoying it. I'm impressed by this, and I like that somebody's out there doing this kind of thing because there's a lot of stuff out there that's like, we're making some really well-made lagers, but they're, American, just American style lagers, or they're, whatever they are. Like they're not super inventive, but they're really well made. Nothing wrong with that. I do like somebody out there doing oak-aged watermelon Kolsch's. I think there's still room for that. That's where the excitement is. That's where the fun is. And then I'm going to follow it up later in the theme of fun and excitement with a what I found out is a collaboration between Boulevard and Blackberry Farm. It's a carrot cake Belgian style strong ale, which it's basically bourbon barrel aged Belgian strong golden ale. And they came out with a whole series, Boulevard did, of various interesting barrel aged beers. And I picked this up late last year, and it's been hanging out waiting for me to drink. And I have history with carrot cake Belgian beers, really liking them. So I have high hopes for this. I like what Boulevard does. So really looking forward to getting into that. That's probably going to be the one I open after the show with the Patreon folks, the after show party.
Party. Yeah.
Gotcha. So that's my plan. That's what I'm doing. How
cool,
about you,
man?
Tim?
Cool. I have got, Brian, again, gotta muck around with the NAs. I'm doing what I got to do here, but I have from Best Day Brewing, I have their Electro Lime, which is a lime cerveza, and it's tasty, Brian. It's tastes like a drinking beer with some lime in it, and I'm okay with that. It's as it gets warmer, my office doesn't get, the air conditioner doesn't kick my office that well, and then I've got 7,000 computers and all pieces of hardware in here, so my office gets warm. So a lime cerveza is totally fine to wind down with. So that's what I've got going on right now.
Sounds nice.
Yeah. Nate, What you drinking?
So first off on my glass from Skygazer, I had their Summer Shandy Pink Lemonade, the Shandy Radler Ale. It was really refreshing. It had good notes of strawberry and lemon in it. And then I just poured in my glass from Foam Brewing, their Dead Flowers. So call back to where I would go visit for beers. This is a New Zealand IPA with Riwaka and Southern Cross hops.
Very cool, man. Very
Sounds
cool.
good.
Yeah, your New Zealand trip. You're taking a virtual trip to New Zealand.
Mm-hmm. My
Good
palate is
stuff.
taking a trip to New Zealand tonight.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. So, Nate, do I see correct? Do we have another style profile this week?
You see correct.
All right,
so last
man.
week we featured your favorite, your recent favorites, cream ale. Tonight we're featuring one of my favorites to homebrew, the Schwarzbier. So Schwarzbier literally means black beer in German, but it is a dark German lager that balances roasted yet smooth malt flavors. But then you also get a little bit of a hop bitterness to it. I really like this because it gives me everything that I enjoy out of a stout without the stout percentage. And so, this one's going to be medium to very dark in color. You're going to get a little bit of a malt, sweet, aromatic to it. But at least on the body, it's usually going to be pretty clean. You're going to expect to get the flavor profile closer to a Pilsner, but with those dark roast malt additions to it. And then as far as some commercial options, domestically from Devil's Backbone, they've got their Schwartz Beer Black Lager, and from Wiseacre out of Nashville, they've got their Starless Schwartz Beer. And then I'm not comfortable. I'm not very great at pronouncing different words, but Kostritzer Schwartz Beer.
Kostritzer. I don't know what the O
It's
with
Koo.
the dots.
It's
Kustritzer?
Kustritzer, probably. Yeah, and
Perfect.
I'm probably not saying it right because it's been a long time since I've gotten any instruction on saying German words. But my favorites, and I don't know if it's technically considered a Schwarzbier, but I consider it the Silent World from Creature Comforts, the local one that comes out.
Mm-hmm.
I think just about every year, and I think the first time, maybe not the first time I ever had it, but I remember drinking it at Goodword recently and really enjoying it because they had some interesting stuff from other breweries on tap. So I really like that. I look forward to that. Good black lager, it's quality beer.
I'm in a Schwartz beer in a minute, but it's one kind of like you said, Nate. I like the darker flavors in that, but a little more drinkability there. So definitely a fun one. Good stuff. Good stuff. Brian, beer styles at GABF, and things are always evolving there. We've talked about it before that the big kicker this year was the not Sierra Nevada. Was it Sierra Nevada? What was it? What was it that won the ESB category? Was that Sierra Nevada Pale Ale?
The Pale Ale
Yeah.
won the ESB. Yeah.
So things are on the mix up, and the BA has announced they have some new beer styles next year for GABF.
Look at us doing all this beer style talk, but the
styling.
That's right. We are so styling this week. The Brewers Association has added 7 new beer styles to their style guidelines for the 2025 Great American Beer Festival. The Mexican style lager category has been added with 4 new styles under it: light, pale, amber, and dark, which makes sense. These are versions of Mexican lagers we've seen. In previous GABF competitions, Mexican style lagers were just rolled up into other lager categories. They didn't have their own thing, but it was determined that the growth in popularity and the uniqueness of the style merited its own category. So now they've got its own category. They have also added Czech style amber lager and Czech style dark lager. These will be subcategories of the International Amber Lager and the International Dark Lager categories, respectively. They're also adding a West Coast style Pilsner. The new style balances the fresh, assertive expression of Pacific Northwest and Southern Hemisphere hops with the character and drinkability of Pilsner. The addition of this style was in response to the increasing number of heavily hopped lager styles we've been seeing lately. It's kind of hot lately. They're all over the place, and I'm here for it. I like seeing that. Additionally, there will be one name change. Bohemian style Pilsner will now be called Czech style Pale Lager, probably to be more consistent with the categories they've added for the Czech style Amber Lager, and the Czech style dark lager. And in case you didn't know, the 2025 Great American Beer Festival takes place in Denver from October 9th to the 11th. So you've got, I think there's time to register and there's time to, get ready to go to that.
You can
so
plan. You got
it's
time
coming
to
up.
plan there. So, Brian, I have some additional information to add in. Breaking news that I just saw posted a little earlier today from the Brewers Association. But in addition to those categories, they're going to have a special one-time competition category.
Really?
For the new Vera public hop variety. So they said this hop was developed by the USDA ARS public hop breeding program with support from the BA. And Vera has a tropical, stone fruit, and citrus aroma profile. And then there is a link to a deeper article on that. So we'll read that. And if there's more info to share, but I just saw that on the social medias on the socials, Brian, as they call them.
On the socials.
But yeah, so Vera hop category, special one-time thing for JBF.
That's an interesting idea. So that I'm figuring that's some sort of a sponsorship. That's fun. I like that. That's
fun.
You get to go there and try that out. Yeah, all right.
Have
I like that idea.
Tried the Vera hop, or are you familiar with the Vera hop?
I'm not. No, that's new to me. So I'm going to be on the lookout for seeing that in the future. Presumably, if they're going to have that category, it must be out there in the wild for people to use. And maybe I've had it and just haven't realized it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That was the first time I heard it mentioned. So I may have not been paying attention, but that was the first time that I'd heard it. So interesting stuff. So Brian, buying, selling, closing, always stuff moving around. In the latest news, breweries being sold. Ska Brewing has been sold.
Yeah. So there's been rumors about this possibly happening since I think they started in February. People were talking about it, and we can confirm this week, or the articles that we found on Brewbound can confirm that 30-year-old Ska Brewing has been sold. It was acquired in May by two families that both have ties to alcohol distribution. The sale price of the brewery was not disclosed, which is pretty common these days. But as part of the deal, Ska Brewing's $5 million debt from a poorly timed expansion has been wiped out. So basically, a little history here. They took out some debt to build a new hospitality complex called Ska Street Brewstillery, and it opened in March of 2020. Well, something else happened in March of 2020, and it wasn't great for business, that thing. So that didn't work out too well for them.
Gen Z's fault.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. I mean, they were just starting to hit the adult world then, so they probably brought this to us. That's probably them. Anyway, Ska Brewing's co-founder David Thibodeau will remain with the company, and Steve Breesley will be promoted to CEO. I believe he's COO currently. With the sale, Ska Brewing already has plans to expand its distribution footprint, which makes sense. Like the distributors are buying it, or families that own distributors are buying it. So yeah, they've already got plans to grow. So this sounds like a good story. They're not getting bought out by Budweiser and
by big beer,
or
exactly. Big weed, as happens to be popular these days. So
yeah, so they may do really well as a result of this. So it looks like all the people are still staying there. So we'll see how it goes. You never know with these things.
All right, you don't. Sometimes they say this and then they wait till the news dies down and things go willy and nilly. Both
at the same time.
Yeah. Well, Brian, before we move along, how about we give a shout out to our favorite sponsor, Truck and Tap?
That's a great idea. So this week, one of our Patreon supporters reminded us that stouts are for summer. So I drank a big boozy stout a day or two before the show. And you know what? He's right. Stouts are definitely for summer. I really enjoyed that. It's like I've been missing stouts. I haven't had a really good decadent one in a while, and that really hit the spot. And don't try telling me summer hasn't started yet. We all know summer really begins after Memorial Day. It doesn't matter what the calendar says. The calendar's a liar anyway. And because stouts are so great, and because Truck and Tap has a bunch of good ones on right now, my beer picks for this week will feature a bunch of great stouts, except for one. It'll be fine. You'll like it. At Truck and Tap Woodstock, I'm going with Edmund's Oast Forgotten Orchard. This is the only non-stout on my picks for this week. It's a barley wine that has been aged in Calvados barrels for 13 months. And you might say 13, that's bigger than 12. That's more than a year. You're right. It's over a year. It may not be a decadent stout, but if you're not going to be disappointed by the notes of roasted apples and brandy, vanilla and caramel. I really want to try this one. I haven't had anything out of a Calvados barrel in a while, but I'm always when I see that, I'm always intrigued by it. I'm just going to say that. So I've had various things out of a Calvados barrel. I think I had a cigar out of a Calvados barrel once. That's part of the reason I'm always intrigued by that. But anyway, at the Duluth location, I'm getting AleSmith Speedway Stout Grand Prix 2024 toasted coconut Vietnamese coffee. So the only thing I like more than a stout is a stout made with coffee, and toasted coconut is just icing on the stout cake. And Vietnamese coffee is intriguing, and I really want to get some of this. This is a very special barrel here, or keg. You need to get some of that. Make your way over there. I really need to get over there and try that because that's kind of special. But at Truck and Tap Alpharetta, my pick is also from AleSmith. It's Speedway Stout. So yes, I'm getting the original Imperial Coffee Stout because I'm so excited to have Speedway Stout back in distribution here. So I'm doubling down. But I do have an honorable mention. It's not a stout, but it's I think it's worth mentioning. There is an English dark mild with coffee from Phase 3 called Coffee Proper Trolleyed. I think that's how you say that word. I love the idea of an English mild with coffee, so I'm going to do both. The English mild is like 3%, so it's fine. With the big stout in that one, it'll work out, and they're both coffee. It's going to be great. I might even do the mild first, probably, but anyway. And finally, at the Lawrenceville location, I'm going with Heavy Seas Black Beer's Breakfast. Breakfast means coffee, and in this case, it's a bourbon barrel aged imperial coffee stout, which sounds like a balanced breakfast to me. So it makes a lot of sense. So there you have my Truck and Tap beer picks for the week. I had not planned to include so many coffee beers, particularly coffee stouts, but at least you'll be wide awake while you enjoy them. But if you'd like to check out other tap options, but I don't know why you would with my killer list. I mean, it's great. But you can check out all the tap lists at truckandtap.com. Also events calendars, food truck schedules, and even Truck and Tap merch. Did you know they had merch? You can get an Overproof Rum Bar t-shirt from truckandtap.com. That is truckandtap.com. And thank you to Truck and Tap for your support.
Thank you, Truck and Tap. Brian, how much coffee did you have in preparation for that coffee commercial?
I think I had a lot of coffee today.
I think you had a lot of coffee too, Brian.
Too much. Yes.
I think you may have had a little bit. That's yeah. So for those that don't know, back when we had our studio space, Brian would frequently load up a nice little thermos of coffee for the drive into the studio. And it could always tell, especially if we were recording commercial spots. And he would just be wired up. And, I saw not a meme. I was going to say meme, but just a video short earlier that was someone lamenting about being a food content creator. And they were showing like the 50 takes that they had to do to get the content just right. And that was very reminiscent of being in the studio and recording commercial spots because you want to get the inflection right and this and that. And Brian likes to claim that his struggles with those commercial spots were because he was reading words written by someone else and that it made it difficult to read someone else's words. But I wish we had some of those. Those would have been good viral content for us to put out there with
a little behind the scenes action.
I don't need people seeing me being frustrated by speaking. That's terrible.
if anybody knows Brian's seriously the chillest guy in the world. Like there's very, very little that frustrates Brian, but if it does frustrate him, it's 10 on the Richter scale. And it's usually something minute that just happens to be his personal thing. But, as far as daily life goes or any other big things, he's a pretty roll with the punches kind of guy. So he's got his moments for sure. And commercial spots that didn't go well was definitely one of those moments.
You have no proof of any of this. It sounds like lies.
I'm going to have to look. I bet we do. I bet we may have some proof somewhere. We'll have to.
I remember recording some B-roll on a couple of those.
Yeah.
We've got it somewhere.
That was fun, man. That was fun. I bet I've got save files, Brian. I'll go back. I'll find them. We'll bring them up if I can find them.
Some of them weren't safe for radio, as I recall.
They were not. I actually think I made a sound clip one time that just cut out every swear word that you said during the session. And it was seriously like a minute and a half of just constant swearing. So yeah, it was fun. Good times. But
great.
We always made it to the finish line eventually.
Eventually.
We did.
Yes.
We did it. Well, Brian, more interesting news. This one just sounds crazy to me. For those who know Hooters, the restaurant, chicken wings and girls in tight shirts and skimpy shorts. And Brian, the world's changing. Hooters isn't cool
Yeah.
anymore. There was a time when it was cool to do that. And now it's not. So, of course, that means the restaurant's not very popular. And they filed for bankruptcy. They filed back in March, but they're trying to keep the head above water. And we just found out that apparently Hogan's Beer Company is trying to acquire Hooters.
This kind of sounds like 80s nostalgia, like rising from the grave and trying to eat itself or something like that. But anyway, yeah. Hulk Hogan's Real American Beer brand is leading a new bid to acquire the entire Hooters of America business, including its restaurants. Apparently, at some point in time, they had made a bid on just buying the name and using the name, but they're not doing that anymore. So they've assembled a team with experience in running restaurant chains and with plans to revitalize Hooters. So they're serious about getting this thing going and making it run again. What's crazier is Hulk Hogan's bid puts him in competition with another proposal led by Hooters Inc., which is run by Hooters co-founder. So they're bidding for Hooters against Hooters, which is I can't even. Yeah, that's amazingly funny. I don't know how this isn't like a satire or a sitcom or something like that. But the crazy doesn't stop there. U.S. liquor laws prevent alcohol brands from owning restaurants, meaning that another entity would have to own the Hooters locations if he was successful in buying them. But I'm no lawyer. I don't know how any of this is technically legal. I don't know how they can even make the purchase, even to hand it off to somebody else. But I'm sure there are loopholes to be exploited. There always are with laws and everything like that. So
yeah,
Hooters is in debt to the tune of $376 million, and it's not clear how much of the money that their creditors are going to get if this actually goes through. But it sounds like they'll be settling for less than what they're owed as part of the deal, should a deal be reached. I assume something will be because there are multiple bids. Not really related to this story, but I kind of had to look it up because I'm like, Hulk Hogan, what's going on there? Hulk Hogan is 72 years old right now, and he started the Real American Beer Company last year. So, I mean, I got to give him props. At 71, he started a beer company. Like, not many people are starting like new companies and bidding for Hooters like in their 70s. So, that's something. I mean, it's pretty interesting, right?
it just seems like such a crazy story to me that why he would I don't know, man. It's the whole Hooters thing and Hulk Hogan. He was such hero might be a strong word to use for him, but he was admired there when he was back in the day, and just not so much anymore. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I remember seeing, and we didn't really talk about it because it just seemed like mostly advertisement for the beer brand. But when it rolled out, I think that there was some weird issues that happened with rollouts. I think people were getting into fights. I'm like, he is a wrestling guy. So maybe it was fights or somebody got injured at some of his things. So I vaguely recall there being some drama involved with the whole beer brand too. So
yeah,
all of this has a lot of crazy energy around it. When I was reading it, I'm like, this is interesting. So anyway,
the person he is and kind of his stereotypical personality is it's popular with some people right now, and it's very not popular with others. I'll just say that, just to be as non-political as possible. He's on a certain side. He rides a certain wing, and it all depends on
I see what you're saying.
how
Okay.
you align right now as to whether or not that is.
I hadn't really thought about that, but yeah, I guess, I guess that makes sense. So
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff. Well, Brian, Africa seems to be just the hottest topic this week. We were talking about Coach going and visiting there.
Yeah.
And now we've got information on the best beer in Africa.
Yeah, this is a fun one. I saw this. It's a press release, but it got posted on All About Beer, and I like the All About Beer website. I check that out pretty frequently. So the unusual beer that just won the 2025 African Beer Cup. It's a wine barrel aged blend of farmhouse ale and traditional sorghum beer, and that sorghum beer is called Umqombothi. I think I got that pretty close to right. Umqombothi.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah, it was competing against 260 beers from 14 countries, and most of them were common styles like lagers and pale ale, stouts, and Belgian style ales. I was looking around through some of the other winners and other mentions. They had milkshake IPAs and things like that in there too. So they're doing all kinds of crazy. They're doing all the same crazy stuff over there that we're doing over here. So some of those were winning too. So this traditional style won against all of those other ones. So we're always interested in the like new to us styles. Like this has been around for a long time, but it's new to us. So here are the details about umkombothi. According to Wikipedia, it's traditionally made from maize, sorghum, yeast, and water. It's generally a lower ABV beer, usually less than 3%, and it's often thick and creamy. And because of the maize, sometimes it's got a little grit to it. It has a distinctive sour aroma, and it has an opaque, buff-colored appearance. It's popular because it's typically cheaper than your commercial lagers because you make it yourself. It's a homebrew. It's said to be a good source of B vitamins as well. As for how you make it, it really varies. The process seems to be passed down from one generation to the next, and I think it's typically brewed for celebrations. You know, if somebody graduates something, somebody gets a job, some other noteworthy thing happens. My understanding is from reading Wikipedia anyway, it's like you brew it to celebrate, and then people come out over and drink it, and they bring brandy as a thank you for doing it. So it's a big boozy festival. But anyway, yeah, the brewing is pretty involved. It takes several days to happen. You know, it's heated over a fire a couple of times. It's left outside to cool overnight. So there's a little bit of a kind of a cool ship thing happening here, and then it's stored warm to encourage fermentation. And despite Wikipedia saying yeast is an ingredient, it sounds like this is really more of a spontaneous fermentation situation, but maybe both. Maybe they, allow a little of the wild bugs to get in, and then they, inoculate it with some yeast. So, but the recipe and the procedure is going to vary from brewer to brewer. Anyway, the name of the beer itself is Wild African Soul, and is currently available on sale at Soul Barrel Brewing website for 120 South African Rand, which is about $6.78 in US, and that's for a 375 milliliter bottle. They say the beer has layers of creamy pear, jammy fruit, citrus, and honey that melt into a funky, dry barrel character. I'm going to say ISO. I would like to get my hands on this, but I also wonder how much it would cost to ship a beer like one of those here from South Africa. Is that like a $50, $60 shipping charge for that? So
might be.
Yeah.
But for the experience, Brian, it might be worth it to do that.
It's
So
the
who
best
knows,
beer in
man?
Africa, and it's a
That's
blending
right.
of European barrel styling and blending with the traditional African brewing, which is kind of their whole theme for that. So
Did you
very
try
cool
ordering
thing.
one? Did you see if they would ship you one here, Brian?
I tried. It looks like they don't ship outside of South Africa, so I don't think I can. I wanted to see what the shipping charge was. I don't know if I would have ordered it, but it really depends on how much they're going to charge for that.
I mean, if they'd thrown like $35, you're like, you know what? Yeah, I'm down with that. I'll get a couple bottles to try something unique like this.
Yeah, had they? If it was a reasonable amount, and I get anywhere from a couple to 6, and I didn't have to pay too much, yeah, I would have done that. Just and interesting, but.
See, this ties into what I was saying earlier about traveling to countries, and trying something like we're not going to get us an Ubakwathi here in Georgia, Brian. It's just not going to happen. So we don't have the terroir for that.
True. We do not. So. We don't probably have a lot of sorghum around here, or I think you could get sorghum. You could get maize.
Sorghum,
it wouldn't be authentic, but
sure.
you could try this. This could be theoretically done, but
an approximation of it.
But there's a whole other half. It's a a farmhouse ale, and there's a wine barrel involved. Like to get this, it's really involved. There's a lot of moving parts here. So
a lot of work, man. Good drinks take a lot of work, though. It happens.
Indeed.
Brian, to follow up the best beer in Africa, BA has ranked the worst beers in the world. So before we dive into this, Brian, can you think what is the worst beer you've ever had?
Oh, I've pretty easily. I'm pretty sure. Let me think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I know which one it was, and I did mention it in my write up for this list. But it was going to probably be Tactical Nuclear Penguin because it was just terrible. And I went back and looked at my rating, making sure I like an idiot hadn't gotten on some hype train and marked it up as a good thing. And I'm like, no, I think I wrote down it was like gasoline and burning brake pads or something like that. I'm like, nice one, Brian. That's exactly right. I think I gave it like a 1 or 1.5 or something like that. It was that would of the ones that immediately come to mind, that is definitely the worst I've had. I've had some homebrew that's been really, really off too. So, but that's a different thing. This was commercially produced and somebody paid good money for,
Yeah, absolutely. So I would probably say, Tactical Nuclear Penguin would be up there for me. I wouldn't say this is necessarily the worst beer I've ever had, but I will tell you the most disappointing beer I ever had. And that was Dark Lord. And it gets a ton of hype. People love it. There's a Dark Lord festival and all this, and we've got buddies that make sure to go to that every year. I thought it was actually a lot like we've talked about Tactical Nuclear Penguin. It's dirty, molassesy, an ashtray, burning tires, this and that. Anytime I said that to somebody, anytime I made a comment that it was bad, the answer was always the variants are good. The variants are good because Dark Lord always does a lot of the, a vanilla or this and that. I've never tried any of the variants of Dark Lord, Brian. I haven't had Dark Lord in many years, to be honest with you. But the couple of times I've tried the base version of Dark Lord, it was massively disappointing and quite unenjoyable.
Yeah, I made a meme about it one year. That was basically pallets of sugar with a couple of bottles of soy sauce. I can't make it to Dark Lord Day.
Right.
Don't worry, I got you. So
actually,
I remember 2012 was the year that they always said like that was the last good one. And people said after 2012 it went downhill. So
that was it. I actually just remembered another one that we shared with our buddy Scott Hadeen at a bottle share, and he had a bottle of 1995 Samuel Adams Triple Bock.
Oh,
and the cork, when you touch the cork, it fell down into the bottle, which means it had a lot of air exposure, and it had unquestionably gone off, and it was horrendous. It was very unenjoyable.
I did have a good one of those.
I heard that. I've heard people say that. Yeah.
15 or so years ago. Like it was late 90s. And at that point in time, it was probably 10 or 12 years old. And I think it actually still had the cork intact when I had it. It was like, and I went looking for another one. I had never had a good experience with it after that. But that first one was good. But that's back when it was maybe a little over 10 years old. Now it's just, no.
Just an FYI that the late 90s were nearly 30 years ago, Brian, not 15.
Well, no, 15 years ago I had it. It was about 10 years.
Okay.
So
I thought you said
had it.
15 years ago, around 2010.
No,
I was like,
no.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
no. That's keep on going back. Or 15 years ago in the late 90s is what I thought you had said there.
Yeah, no. It was 15 years
right.
ago. I was having something that was still about 10 plus years old from the 90s.
Yeah.
And at that point, if you got one that was still intact, it was actually pretty good. But there's some real issues with it after that point.
Nate, how about you, man? What's the worst beer you've ever had?
So this whole time you guys have been talking, I've been racking my brain. When I was managing a liquor store, we had this. It was a 24-ounce can. It was black, and there were 3 red X's around the front of it. And it was right when I was getting into drinking beer. It wasn't good. I just got it because it had a high percentage and it was cheap. And this was back in my mid to early 20s, and so cheap and high percentage was the only metrics I was paying attention to.
Was it
that was the important factors at the time, huh?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Taste could take a back seat, and taste did take a back seat.
The only thing that comes to mind when I think of 3X is like there's a Mackeson's 3X stout, but I don't know if that would have been the one that you had. And that's
I looked it up on Untappd and I couldn't find it. So, but I just remember it being a 24-ounce black can with 3 X's across the front of it, and it was.
As we talk about this, I'm thinking about others that were famously unpopular. Do you remember Stone's Crime and Punishment, Brian or Nate? Did you have those?
Yes,
I do remember that.
Yeah, and those were pretty widely regarded as being pretty bad. That was back in the chili beer phase, the spicy beers, and I don't even remember the difference in Crime and Punishment, but I know one of it was just hot. Like it was so
Yes.
hot, it just wasn't enjoyable. And people made the comment, well, it makes a good pot of chili or something like that. But it was not enjoyable to drink. And I also thought about, was it Rogue that did the maple bacon donut
Oh, that
stout?
that wasn't that bad.
Well, that's what
Or-
I was gonna say. I had people get all over me because when I had it, when it was cold, I think I may have this reversed, but I got a lot of the smoke note in there. As it warmed, the maple came out a lot more. And I'm like, this is actually kind of interesting. I'm like, I don't think I'd want to sit around and drink an 8 ounce of this, but it was it was enjoyable. And this coming from a smoke hater, but in a beer like a stout with a little bit more body and stuff going on there. But I did not think it as bad as it was, but I have heard a lot of people when asked what the worst beer they've ever had was, said that one.
That was produced a couple of different times. I think the first time I ever saw it was what happened to be one of the times I went back to Portland, and Oregon's where Rogue's based, and I saw it there. I had it there, and then I bought a bunch of bottles and brought them back, and so I kind of hoarded it. I think the subsequent editions of it I didn't get, and maybe that's part of it, because I think it was that first release was, I think, meant to be like a limited thing, and I thought it was great. I know that when I brought it back, it wasn't as well received by as many people as
No,
I
it
thought it
wasn't.
should be, but it wasn't the world's worst beer. It was kind of like, oh, that's not that great.
To
I'm like,
you.
yeah, it's like fine, whatever. I think that it was redone, and it may have been terrible on subsequent occasions, and I don't know. I know they
Okay.
did a whole other style of different types of
Now they did a
donut-inspired
lemon
stuff.
It
Yeah,
was Voodoo Donut, Rogan Voodoo Donut.
Mhm.
yeah.
And they did a lemon crawler one that to me tasted like cleaning products. It tasted like
Oh,
a
yeah.
lemon pledge or something. So
The
actually,
lemon one was rough.
I
Yeah.
thought that was a lot worse than the
Yes.
maple bacon donut one.
You're
So,
correct. I remember that. That was a cleaning product. That was not
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
So apparently we're getting a voodoo donut here, Tim. Anyway,
We are,
Yeah.
Brian. Yeah, Atlanta's getting a Voodoo Donut, so
Wow.
I'm curious. So here's another thing. We've talked about this a lot before with beers or other things. Certain things have a lot of hype that come with them. So Brian, I will have some very high expectations for Voodoo Donut when they finally do make it here, and I hope two reasons. I hope I'm not waiting in a 2-hour line to get a donut. One reason. And another, I just hope they meet the hype, because I can appreciate a good quality donut, and I hope that they bring it. I hope they bring it.
I
Brian.
hope they do too. And when I first went there with their original tiny like shoebox location, they
Yeah.
were the coolest thing we'd ever seen. I don't think they're the hottest donut shop in Portland anymore, but they used to be the
I've
hottest
heard
place
that. I've
back
heard
when they were
that.
new,
Yeah.
and I used to go there. But they're a whole big different thing now. So I don't know. I have high hopes because I do have a lot of nostalgia for them, and I'm amused by their types and shapes of donuts.
We'll
So,
see.
yeah,
We'll
we'll
see
see.
what happens there. But Brian, all of that said, what does Beer Advocate have to say about the worst beers in the world?
Yeah, so they basically, I'm going to skip right to it. Their methodology for putting it together. MSN compiled this from Beer Advocate, and they just grabbed all the ratings as of May of 2024 when they got the stuff. And every beer that's including this list has at least 100 reviews. So your cousin's crazy, awful homebrew or whatever isn't going to make the list. So it's the thing to keep in mind is this list is created by the geekiest of beer geeks. So there are going to be strong biases in favor of rare and exceptional craft beer and very anti like larger beer. But here's the list. At 25, we've got Heineken Premium Lager at 2.38 rating, and people call it watery and flavorless. At 24, we've got Corona Extra, which surprises me a bit. It's called bland, but these, again, are beer geeks. Kirin Light Beer at 23, Tecate Light at 22. You're going to see a theme here of light beers.
Light. Yeah.
Yeah, with Tecate and Kirin. Tecate, they say, has a bad corn syrup flavor, which is interesting. I don't know if I've ever had Tecate Light. Old Milwaukee, it's criticized for lightness and heavy carbonation. It's at 21. Colt 45 malt lager, if I can get that out.
Malt liquor, not malt lager.
Malt liquor. I'm sorry, I can't speak at
Yeah.
all. But at 20, and people complain that's got overpowering booziness to it. Right next to it is another malt liquor, not a lager, St. Ides. St. Ides. We definitely know that one from back in the day. More booze and flavor, apparently, with that at 19. At 18, Labatt Blue Light, and people just complain about it being light, but it's a light beer, so, whatever. Stroh's Light comes in at 17. Lucky Lager, which I don't know, is coming in at 16, and they say it's watery. It's made by Labatt in Canada, so I don't know Lucky Lager. Coors Light at 15. They say it's watery and overcarbonated, and I got to agree. Of all the light ones out there, this is probably my least favorite.
Let's talk faster, Brian. We're running out of time here. I've been telling you in the chat, but you're not reading it. So let's go.
I know. Okay, Red Dog at 14, Keystone Lager at 13, Corona Light at 12, Busch Ice at 11. Got a weird sugary taste. Milwaukee's Best at 10, Bud Light at 9, Milwaukee's Best Light at 8, Miller 64 at 7, Natural Ice at 6, Beer 30 Light, which I've never heard of, at 5, Keystone Light, which at 4, which is watery apparently, Sharps, the only non-alcoholic beer on this list, at number 3, Natural Light at number 2 with a 1.76, and Budweiser Select 55 with 1.65 at number 1. Thin, flavorless, and odd smelling. And somebody said that they'd rather drink tap water from Flint than drink this. So,
wow.
Yeah, there is the list of the 25 worst.
I've had a few of them.
Beers.
I haven't had the worst. I feel like it was an interesting call to read an entire list of 25 out, Brian. I feel like that was an interesting decision.
I think that the comments made it worthwhile, Tim.
The comments
yes.
There. Have you had the Budweiser Select 55?
I think I have, but I could not find any kind of information about like me checking it in. And I remember it being odd smelling or odd tasting, like chemically. So I believe that I did have it at a nearby bar when it was new. So
Nate, how about you, man? Have you had that one?
I have not had that one. No, I used to sell a whole bunch of it, but I've never actually had it. I think it's 55 calories per bottle.
Yeah,
though.
I think that's a deal on that one. It was 55 calories. Well, y'all, that does wrap up our time for this week. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us. If you enjoy what we're doing, we would love it if you would tell a friend to tune in and check out the show. If you really dig us, go to patreon.com/beer guys. We greatly appreciate your support. We'll get you in our Patreon Discord chat. We'll invite you to the after party. We'll send you some cool swag, and everybody will have a really good time. But with that said, we hope that you all have a really good week, and don't forget to drink local. Cheers. Clear. Y'all, we are going to sign off. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Again, if you are a Patreon supporter, we'll put the link in our Discord chat to come hang for the after party. But y'all have a good week, and we'll see you next one.